What's up guys, Infernape here. Now if you guys know me pretty well, you'll know that my favourite rival in Pokemon was Paul. Paul was just the absolute badass. Yes, I know that Gary is the OG, but I think that Paul does what he does, but better. And I always wanted to see what Paul's endgame was when the series came to a close. And we found out that Paul is actually going to become the new gym leader. I don't know if it's going to be in Veilstone City, it wasn't confirmed, but I'm assuming it's going to be Veilstone City considering that's where he's from. But it does make you wonder, what type specialty is Paul going to have? Because he has quite a large variety of Pokemon types, and he may have Pokemon that we don't know about. So, based on the Pokemon that we do know about, I'm going to try and pinpoint a somewhat accurate idea of what Paul's type specialty is going to be, based on how many of that type he's caught, and also based on personality. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below if you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it, if you like what I've done with Paul's team, if you think this is a good theory video, and if you have any video suggestions for the future, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. So without further ado, let's get into the video! Now I feel like I should give you a little background on Paul, so that way you understand his characteristics and his mindset. If you do not want to watch me go over who Paul is and his background, I left a timestamp in the description, so that way you can go to the part where I go over what I believe his type specialty would be. So, with all out of the way, let's go over who Paul is. Paul is a trainer from Veilstone City back in the Sinnoh region, and he is by far, in my opinion, the most powerful rival Ash has ever had. His battling style is all about training hard and keep pushing it, to the point where his Pokemon collapse from exhaustion. A good example of this is the training method he'd done with Chimchar. When Paul was a brand new trainer and picked up his Turtwig, he actually decided to go to Kanto during his Sinnoh journey, because he wanted to watch his older brother Reggie have a battle against Brandon. Now Reggie is also a very talented trainer himself. He had 8 gym badges on the Kanto, Johto, Hoenn and Sinnoh region, and he had 6 of the 7 frontier symbols. Now that is impressive. Pretty much the same aim as Ash did, but this is the difference between the two. The thing is, when he battled Brandon, he got his ass whipped. And not with consequences. This guy lost to Brandon without defeating a single Pokemon. And that really shook Paul, because of that battle and what Brandon said to Reggie. Because he said that his battling style is nothing more than standard and ordinary, and he had no inner strength. And because of that, Paul was pissed. So he decided to only focus on capturing the most powerful Pokemon he could acquire and dominate anyone with brute force and type advantage. Most of Paul's battling style, well, during training anyway, is to make his Pokemon gang up on one another and attack it full force. So that way, the Pokemon that he's training will have no choice but to power up themselves in order to defend themselves. And he wants that to happen in every single battle that Paul is in. And that is just not cool. I'm being honest, that is totally not cool. But it does get him through 3 Pokemon leagues. Actually 4. Because of the fact that he went through Kanto, Johto and Hoenn, as well as their leagues without winning any of them, and did the same thing in Sinnoh. That means he's been through 4 Pokemon leagues, and he may not have won all of them, but back then he was just as experienced as Ash. So that does make him pretty powerful, if you ask me anyway. And because of all those past experiences, that made the Pokemon League officials decide to give Paul his own Pokemon gym. And to me, that just proves how strong this guy is. One other thing that I'm not overly fond about Paul is that he only focuses on capturing powerful Pokemon, or Pokemon that he deems to be powerful. Because if you remember in the anime, he captured 3 Starly. Then he examined them to see what moves they know. And when one knew moves such as Double Team and Aerial Ace, and the other 2 that he had had Tackle and Sand Attack, he kept the one with Aerial Ace and Double Team and released the other 2 back into the wild. And another example of this is when he went into Bewilder Forest, captured a Stantler, and he found out that it only knew Tackle Attack, he released it literally a few seconds after capturing it. So that kind of proves that he's a bit of a dick. Now, with all of that info out of the way about his personality, let's go over the Pokemon that he has on his person. Obviously, I can't exactly use Pokemon that he's released because he no longer has access to them. But with that being said, the Pokemon that he has are Electivire, Magmortar, Torterra, Ursaring, Weavile, Honchkrow, Metagross, Garchomp, Gyarados, Aggron, Gastrodon, Drapion, Ninjask, Frostlass, Hariyama, Nidoking, and Gliscor. Alright, now that we know what Pokemon he has, I'm going to work out what the majority of his type overlaps are. So that way I can compile them into some sort of a team and see what sort of team he would have if he was that specific type leader. So, the most Pokemon he has in common is the ground type, the flying type, and the dark type. If Paul decided to become a ground type specialist, his team would be as follows: Torterra, Garchomp, Gastrodon, Nidoking, and Gliscor. If he were a flying type specialist leader, his team would be Gyarados, Ninjask, Honchkrow, and Gliscor. And if he were a dark type specialist, his team would be Weavile, Drapion, and Honchkrow. Now that we have the possibilities of all the gym types, I am going to pinpoint what I believe is the most likely scenario of what Paul's type specialty would be in his gym based on personality and team. So, if we have a look back, I personally don't think the flying type team would actually work, because he doesn't really come across the sort of person that would have a flying type team. Like, if we look back at some flying type specialists like Winona or Kahili, they're quite free-spirited and carefree, so that doesn't really sum up Paul. He's a very serious and angry person. Like, he literally has that resting bitch face. So I personally don't see him being a flying type specialist. So that comes down to the ground type and the dark type. While I do believe that the ground type team is a lot better, I personally think he's more than likely a dark type leader, because of the fact that his personality is very serious and quite unfriendly. Like, the best I can probably compare him to is probably Nanu, because he is a very serious person and can be quite dark at times. And Paul can be very serious, moody, and not a genuine nice person, if I'm being totally honest. Therefore, I personally believe that Paul's type specialty in his gym would be the dark type. Alright, now that we found out that I believe that he is more than likely going to be a dark type specialist, I actually want to take a different approach as well. What if, for some bizarre reason, he didn't have a type specialist? This way I'm covering all of my ground. What if he was a gym leader who decided to have a mixed spread of types, like Blue does in Heart Gold Soul Silver, or the OGs? So, I'm going to be giving him a team based on this as well. So, if he were a gym leader who didn't have a type specialty, one Pokemon definitely that needs to be on his team is Electivire, because he is probably the strongest Pokemon that Paul has. Like, that guy can rip you to shreds. He took out Pikachu in the first time that we see it, even though it ended in a tie. But still, that guy took on so many people. Like, he managed to do decent damage against Rourke's team, which had a type disadvantage. He did really well in the Pokemon League, and that guy has been taking out ground types more times than I can count. Alright, the next one is actually his starter Pokemon, Torterra, because it's probably the most experienced battler out of all of his Pokemon, due to the fact that it was his very first Pokemon and has seen the most action. Next up, I'm actually going to be going over Drapion. I believe that he will have Drapion due to the fact that it did very well in the Sinnoh League. Keep in mind that Drapion swept half of Ash's team, that being Weasel, Staraptor, and Torterra. Yes, they may have been his weakest members at the time, but at the same time, it is a very noticeable accomplishment. So I believe that that Pokemon definitely needs to be on this team. Alright, next up is actually going to be one I don't think you're going to be expecting. That being Garchomp. Hear me out. I believe that Garchomp would be a great addition to his team, due to the fact that Garchomp took out one of Ash's strongest Pokemon on his team. That being his Dragonite. That Dragonite has taken out loads of noticeable Pokemon. Like, I feel like this Garchomp definitely deserves to be on his team because it took out probably one of Ash's strongest Pokemon on his Journeys team. Alright, next up is actually going to be Honchkrow. I believe that Honchkrow deserves to be here due to the fact that it has very few defeats. The only time it ever lost an official Pokemon battle was when it fought against Cynthia's Garchomp, which can be understandable because it was a Murkrow at the time, and that Garchomp is OP as hell, and Cynthia is the second strongest trainer in the world before Ash came and wrecked all that. Anyway, I personally think that Honchkrow definitely deserves to be here because other than that, the only time it lost was in a Pokeringer competition, and that wasn't really an official Pokemon battle. It was more of them getting a ring and putting it on a hook, while also simultaneously trying to beat the crap out of each other. So I personally think that Honchkrow definitely deserves a place on this team. And finally is Ursaring, due to the fact that Ursaring is a very powerful Pokemon in general. Like, that guy took out so many powerhouses. Not to mention, he even took out a fighting type Pokemon and Ash's Pikachu. Like, that guy is just so broken. No matter, I don't blame Paul for capturing it in Bewilder Forest because that thing is OP as hell. So yeah, I believe that this would be Paul's team if he was a no-type specialty gym trainer. And now then, guys, hope you enjoyed the video as much as I did. Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below if you enjoyed this video as much as I did making it. If you agree with my theory, tell me some of your own theories about Paul's team. And if you have any video suggestions for the future, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. Also, guys, I do hope that you decide to subscribe to my channel, because I actually look back at my analytics, or my analysis, or whatever you want to call it, and the people that watch my videos that are subscribed are a lot fewer than I originally assumed. So please, share this with friends and subscribe. It doesn't cost anything. It's literally just one little click. Not going to hurt anyone. Doesn't cost anything. Just one little click. That's all. And also don't forget that I am doing 4 crazy ass dares when I hit 400 subs. It can range from putting a condom over an exhaust in a car, or super gluing an eye into my face. Like, you get the gist. Just please subscribe to my channel if you like what you see, and help me get to 400 subscribers so I can do some crazy ass dares. And I am not backing out either. If you enjoyed the video as much as I did making it, if you did, be sure to give it a massive thumbs up, comment down below, share the video with a friend, and if you're new, subscribe to my channel. It's been Inferno today. Okay, that's all from me, so until the next time, this is Inferno, signing off. Bye!